Good evening. This topic is on Excel. It's Excel fundamentals. We will cover navigating Excel 2016. Well, the first thing that you have to do is to have a computer that runs Windows and an Excel 2016. Um, I'm currently running Windows 10. So before navigating, you have to understand how to start Windows. The first thing you have to do is to go to the Start button, look under your recent programs, traverse down to your Excel, double click on that, and that will open up the Excel window. Okay, notice that you see Excel recent documents used, and then on the right you will see the templates, right? The first template we're going to use is a blank workbook. So we know Excel is used to store and organize information. So the first thing that we must learn to do is navigate the application. We just learned how to start the program, and you must become familiarized with it. Again, the close button closes out Excel. You press the start button, navigate to the Excel, double click on that, and that should open up Excel. The next step is to click on blank workbook, and now you are on in the Excel workbook window. So to get started in this blank workbook, note the ribbon, and we had a separate class. You can refer back to that topic on navigating the ribbons. So I'm not going to go through that again. I'm simply going to look at Excel. We know that the ribbon includes all of the elements of the Office product. You know, we're talking about the File tab, the Quick Access toolbar, document window, scroll bar, status bar, and so on, right? And again, you can have a quick view of the ribbon before we proceed. Now, we're currently viewing the blank workbook window. The cell with the dark rim around it is known as the active cell, the active cell. The dark border surrounding the active cell is known as the cell pointer. So that's our cell pointer. Notice the dark rim around the cell pointer. To enter data, you must first select the cell. Notice the cursor, right? It looks like a plus sign, a fat plus sign. See that? So I move it around on that active cell. Also note at the bottom the status. We're in the ready mode, So whenever you're clicking on an active cell for the first time, you are in the ready mode. So if I double click the cell, you'll see that I go to the enter mode. And again, if you look at the status, you will see enter, the enter mode, right? And I could begin to type like my name when I'm in the enter mode, right? And you will note that the information also shows in the formula bar, right? So now that I'm in the entering mode and I type my name, if I click off of it, I can go back to the ready mode. Now the other thing to note is I can, if I wanted to edit or change my name information here, I must go into the edit mode. So I'm going to double click on that cell and I'm going to remove my first name, but you'll see that we're now in the edit mode. All right, so if you recall, it's ready, enter, and edit. All right, the other thing is to note that Excel has columns, and the columns have names like A, B, C, right? All the way to X, F, D column. So it's A to X, F, D. And that has been upgraded throughout the years. We're getting larger and larger spreadsheet. If you move from 2003 to 2007 and now to 2010, we have an enormous area to write or document on. Also note that rows, these are rows, and rows are numbers. And you will notice that we go from 1 to 1,048,576 rows. And I can go there simply by traversing using the control down arrow, right? So if I go to the control and I click the down arrow, you'll see that the number there, right? And if I control, and I'm now pressing the arrows, the directional keys, right? So I can go around the spreadsheet that way, and you can see the last column, XFD, as well. So where the columns and the rows meet, that intersection is called a cell. So notice that I type my name in a cell. And I want to just note that a cell is the smallest unit of storage in the workbook. It's the smallest unit of storage in the workbook, a cell. So where the columns and the rows intersect, it forms a cell. And that cell has a name. It's column first, A, and row second. So first name is A, second name or last name is 1. Always in that order. Column, row. Column, row. So if you check the name box, it also has the name in it, right? A1. That means the A1 cell is active. And note that I do have some data in it, right? So I can double click, go in the edit mode, and I can remove the data, right? So that becomes just an active cell. And whenever a cell is active and ready to be selected or to be edited or enter, notice it's in the ready mode, right? Ready mode. All right, so it's easy. We can make any cell active. If I click here, then the D4 cell is active, right? As you can see, the pointer, the border, dark border around the cell, that tells me that's the pointer, right? That's the cell pointer. Okay, so the columns and rows, we said columns are vertical. Rows are horizontal, right? Columns, name of columns, start with letters. Names of rows, start with numbers. Okay, we also said you can navigate around the spreadsheet simply by holding the control key down and pressing the arrow keys, right? That will navigate. Now, notice that this workbook is empty, and that's why we're able to do that. If you did have data, and depending on how that data extend, notice that if I hold the control key and then try to move it around, it will move around the data, right? So it depends on how the data extend, right? So once I have data, the control keys will now allow me to navigate around the data. All right, the other thing to note is I can click on the tab sheet at the bottom, see, or I can add additional sheets, right? So the reason why we add additional sheets, if you have multiple reports under the same topic, or for example, if you want to show a report on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, you can add additional sheets, right? So as we can notice that the new sheet button, if I click on it, will add new sheets, right? Also note that you can use the horizontal scroll bar to hide the sheets, right? See that? I just place the mouse on the three dots and then click on it, turns into an arrow, and I can just use the mouse to drag to hide the sheets, right? Now, you can hide the sheets and just show one sheet and use the tab scrolling buttons to scroll through the sheet names as well. See that? Scroll through the sheet names, tab scrolling button, right? So again, that's if you're using the horizontal scroll bar to hide the sheets, right? In addition to that, we do have a vertical scroll bar, which will allow us to traverse up and down the sheet as well. Okay, all right, so the next step is we can select a range. And how do we select a range? What is a range, right? A range is two or more cells selected consecutively. So for example, if I put my cursor in ready mode on A and I drag it to D10 or D8, all right, let's do it again, D8. You'll see that I have now selected that range, right? And that is denoted by the A1 cell, so A1, and the colon D8 cell. That's the range, right? That's called a cell range. And you'll note that the name of that range, if you check the name box, would be the upper left-handmost cell, right? So in this case, it's A1. If I was over here and I check the range, see my range here, I would have F5, right? If you look in the name box here, right? So that is called a range, right? Note that a range allows you to select and format that range. You cannot enter data in the entire range, right? Because notice that you can only enter data in that one cell, right? Cell A1, right? But in order to format the document, you can select the range. Okay, next, to navigate to the home cell, it's going to be important. Now, what's the home cell? The A1 cell is known as the home cell. So if I'm in my spreadsheet, I'm going to do Control, navigate down, and I'm lost somewhere in my spreadsheet, and I'm wondering where my report is because I don't see it. I can go back to the Control key and press the Home key, and that should bring me back to the A1 cell, which is known as the home cell. Right? So whenever I'm in my spreadsheet and if I away somewhere where I'm not seeing the data that I have put in, I can simply use the Control Home and get back to the A1 cell. Okay, I can navigate through the sheet as well. All right, I'm on sheet 3, so I can navigate to sheet 1. Sheet 1, notice that sheet 1 had my name in there. Sheet 2 and 3 has nothing in there, right? So I can go back to sheet 1, and there you'll see my name, and I could do the control home, and that will get me right back to the A1 cell. So I would be on sheet 1, A1 cell. All right. So did you know that the current book that we're working on is called Book 1, right? In an earlier class, you know that that can be changed if I simply press the Save button, right? Now, the very first save is a Save As. So if I go File, Save, notice I go File, Save, look here, Save As. So the very first save is known as a Save As, right? And the Save As allows me to do a couple of things, right? So for example, I could put in a name in the Save As, but I can also browse to a new location on my computer and put that into a new location in a new files, in a new folder somewhere. So it allows me to navigate to a new folder, new location, also allows me to create a new name. So I can use that to copy or back up my files, right? So when I do that, I can have 2 separate files if I name it, if I have 2 separate names, right? Also note that once you have saved the file, the next thing to do is just continue to update the save command, right? So any changes that you made, because again, the save command simply save your latest changes, right? So once you have saved your file, call it a name. Let's go back and call this file a name. We'll call it test. So let's go to the save. Notice the first save is a Save As button. I'm going to call this test, T-E-S-T. And then I'm going to click on the save button, right? Test already exists. I'm going to replace it. And then you will see the name test appear here in the name, all right, where the book 1 was, right? Now, in addition to that, once I have to save as, if I just keep clicking save, I'm simply saving my latest changes, right? So the save as is a very powerful command. So I want you to recognize this rule, note this rule. In order to save my document, I must use the save as or the save command, right? Now, that's going to be important because if you don't save your document and you've done all your work, you exit the document without saving, then you would have lost that work, right? So saving your work is critical. All right. The next thing to note is that the shortcut keys can be turned on. How do you turn on the shortcut key? I'm going to use the alternate A, and you will see letters appear on the ribbon where the commands are. So what does that mean? Well, each stroke of the letter is that shortcut key. For example, if I wanted to do file save, I just press FS, right? FS, and that would save my file. Or if I wanted to pick a command, right? FT, right? And again, that would allow me to select that pattern, right? So again, alternate A, right? Give me the shortcut key, and I simply use the letters in the shortcut key to actually do the commands or execute those commands. Okay? All right, that concludes our navigation to the Excel spreadsheet. Now it's time to actually do some projects by entering. So I'll see you in the next module. Oh, before we go, let's just review, just a quick review what we just spoke about. All right. Um, just simply opening your document. Looking at the keys, and then here we're just simply looking at the notations. Please pay attention to the notations in these diagrams. And we talked about the rows and the columns, where they meet, where they intersect, the names, right? Column first, then row. Right? And if you just clearly look around on the notations, you'll see it covers exactly what we talked about. Folks, remember, this is just a quick review. Next, we talked about a range, and again, two or more cells that's selected that are adjacent are called a range, cell range, right? In this example, A1 colon D8 denote the way we write it, right? A1 colon D8. And again, it's the first name, first name of the first cell and the last name of the last cell, right? So, and it's denoted with a colon. We should also review the mouse and the keyboard navigational buttons, right? Again, to click on a cell, we click on the cell, we're in the ready mode. That means we were just ready to start entering data. Double click on the cell. You can be in the enter mode, ready to start entering data. Click off a cell, click back on it. You're in the enter mode. Now you can change the data. Also, we learned to click on the row number, right? A row has row number, column letters, and we say the range. You can select the first cell and then drag to the last cell. And then to click on to select all the worksheet or the workbook, we simply click on the select all button right above the A1, right between the A and the 1. It's the select button, right? And again, if you're using your keyboard, you could press the Control A, and that does the select all. And notice on the keyboard too, you can use your Shift space bar to select the row, right? Or to select the column, Shift space bar, right? Or you press the Shift and then press the arrow keys to select the range. You can do that as well. All right, so keep that in mind. Okay, all right. The next phase in our project, we will be working on some projects together, right? So this was a quick review. Hopefully you guys were skillful enough to remember all this, right? If not, you can always go back and review this tape. All right, see you in the next module.